morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is amazing how often our failed, corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless political leaders try to rewrite history. We must respect historic facts. Here is a video clip that has been taking the rounds. My apologies. Simply having some technical problems here.
There was so much goodwill and opportunity for change. There was so much goodwill in the country in Zimbabwe, so much goodwill in SADC, so much goodwill in the continent and globally after the departure of Mugabe, which goodwill was squandered by lack of intelligence, by lack of strategic thinking. A different leader in 2017 could have created an opportunity of dealing with the past. So I am very clear that there was an opportunity because it was a Zimbabwean moment, not a Zanu PF moment.
Not an individual moment.
Not at all. But however, there was lack of leadership on the part of those who were propelled into power by the coup d'etat. In particular, as we've discussed earlier on, Emerson Mnangagwa.
Tell me, having been close to Emerson Mnangagwa as Deputy Prime Minister, having seen the man, are you surprised that things have turned the way they did, particularly given the fact that you're saying there was an opportunity which was missed? And some of us thought he will realize that there's an opportunity, but he didn't. Are you surprised that he didn't see the opportunity?
With hindsight, I'm not surprised because the ability is very minimal there. The competence is very minimal there. He's not a very able man. In fact, in many fronts, there's one, the failure to take advantage of the opportunity presented as the coup.
We should stop. Okay, stop it there. It is important that we get this argument properly framed. There is no doubt, there's no denying that, yes, maybe somebody else would have seized the opportunity that was presented by the 2017 military coup. But what we have got to understand here is that the 2017 military coup was a Zanu PF internal affair. In other words, these were just two factions fighting over which faction should field the dictator. The two factions have never, ever been divided on the issue of dismantling the dictatorship. Real change, real political and economic change in Zimbabwe entails dismantling the dictatorship. So if there was an opportunity, and yes, I agree, things can change, the opportunity, if it existed at all, would have been a fleeting moment where the incoming leader would quickly dismantle the dictatorship before everybody realized what was going on. But it would have been a fleeting moment at the very most. The real Zimbabwean moment was actually during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. The primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the democratic reforms. Arthur Mutambara and his fellow MDC leaders were in that GNU, and their primary task was to implement the reforms. That should be very clear. And in terms of opportunity, they had the opportunity. They had 5 years. And any one of the MDC MPs, senators, deputy ministers, ministers, the 2 deputy prime ministers, and Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai, any one of them had 5 years to submit a reform proposal. History tells us that they did not submit even one token reform proposal. It is therefore rich that somebody who wasted the real opportunity to bring about meaningful change in Zimbabwe, which the GNU presented, should be now be preaching about the opportunities that Mnangagwa wasted in failing to implement the reforms, to implement some reform during or after the 2017 military coup. We've got to get history in this proper perspective. Mutambara himself, in his book, has admitted that he and his colleagues took their eyes off the ball. They should have implemented the reforms. They did not. As a collective, he says, as a collective political leadership, we should have taken time to apply our minds to the existential question, what next after the GNU? We did not address this matter. This was suicidal. If we are going to judge Mnangagwa as a buffoon, and he is a buffoon, make no mistake about it, we have got also to admit that our MDC CCC friends are even worse. Zimbabwe's opportunity, the best in a generation, to bring about meaningful change was without any doubt during the GNU of 2008 to 2018. That was wasted. Ever since the GNU debacle, the MDC leaders, CCC leaders, have participated in flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy. The 2023 elections, both SADC and the AU condemned those elections as flawed and illegal. But they could not go the extra mile and deny Zanu PF legitimacy because MDC or CCC leaders had conned their followers to participate in those flawed elections in their millions. This is not rocket science. If you participate, then you must accept the consequences. There's a Shona saying that yatsika mcheche yamwa. Why some people have failed to grasp that idea beggars belief. The challenge right now for Zimbabwe is to make sure that either the next elections are free, fair, and credible, i.e. the democratic reforms have been implemented. At the present moment, there is no sign that Zanu PF is implementing any of those reforms, or making sure that people do not participate in another flawed elections. SADC and the AU have already put their marker. Zimbabwe's 2023 elections were flawed and illegal. If people do not participate in the next election because there have no reforms that have been implemented, then the ball will be in SADC's court to deny Zanu PF legitimacy. Deny Zanu PF legitimacy will mean going into another GNU. I believe this time we'll be able to get those reforms implemented and finally get the nation back on a democratic footing. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.